don't got to blame it, dang blame it. The show is a
Do you still remember that moment? In the middle of the Wild West desert, a sheriff appears, and the jazz band suddenly falls silent. On both sides of the street, the townspeople stand, with their mouths agape in shock, then all at once draw their guns. And suddenly an old man raises a Bible high. That's when we know this is no longer a normal movie, but beyond those racially charged jokes, Blazing Saddles became a legend thanks to its incredibly wild behind-the-scenes secrets. Warner Brothers once wanted to bury this film before its release. The lead actor received hundreds of hate letters just because of the color of his skin. An Oscar-winning actor collapsed on the very first day of shooting, and the most beloved character by audiences only appeared because of an urgent phone call that lasted less than a minute. Here are the 15 craziest facts behind Blazing Saddles, the comedy that terrified Hollywood, but became a legend. Hold tight to your saddle, the journey has only just begun. 15. The rescue of this role was more dramatic than a Hollywood movie itself.
Oh, well, maybe a couple of years ago I could have shown you something, but today, look at that.
Steady as a rock.
On the very first day of filming, this masterpiece nearly collapsed due to a horrifying incident involving an Oscar-winning actor. Initially, the role of the Waco Kid was given to Gig Young, but right in the opening scene, everything fell apart. His hands trembled violently, his speech became broken and slurred, and he suddenly collapsed on the set. You might think he was delivering an incredible performance. Not at all. Gig Young was actually suffering a severe seizure and delirium caused by alcohol withdrawal. In that desperate moment with the lead actor gone, director Mel Brooks kept his cool. He picked up the phone and called Gene Wilder with a simple direct offer, "Can you fly here tomorrow?" Without even reading the script, Wilder replied with just one word, "Yes." This replacement has gone down in history as one of Mel Brooks' smartest decisions. And as you can see, all it took was Wilder sighing and saying,
Little bastard shot me in the ass.
For the entire theater to burst into uncontrollable laughter. 14. The soul of the film was the most unexpected friend.
How's your mama?
Well, how's my mama? I beg your pardon. I'll slap you in the mouth with my dick.
Some people never appear on screen, yet their presence can be felt in every minute of a movie. Richard Pryor was one of those people. When the project was still in its early stages, Mel Brooks invited Pryor to help write the screenplay, possessing a genius mind. Pryor injected the script with razor-sharp jokes and a rebellious spirit unlike anything audiences had seen before. Brooks was so impressed by his talent that he decided to cast him as Sheriff Bart. But the studio executives were terrified. All they saw was a brilliant but controversial figure surrounded by scandals, and they crossed his name off the list before filming even began. In the end, the role of Sheriff Bart went to Cleveland Little. To be fair, Little delivered an outstanding performance, but there is one thing that cannot be denied throughout the film: you can still feel the presence of Richard Pryor. What a shame. 13. The battle with the censors.
Show off there, sir. Just sign this right here.
Oh, okay, give us a hand here.
All right, sir.
Work, 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 work. Hello, boys. Have a good night's rest. I missed you.
A comedy can make audiences laugh until tears stream down their faces. But to preserve every one of those laughs, Mel Brooks had to fight a battle that was anything but funny. When Mel Brooks submitted the script, he was expecting praise. "Oh, it's wonderful!" Instead, it came back covered in red marks. Everything from controversial jokes to even the phrase "get lost" was flagged for removal. The censors even demanded that the scene in which Sheriff Bart tells Lily, "You're sucking on my arm," be cut entirely because they feared audiences might be shocked. Faced with pressure to tone everything down in the name of safety, Mel Brooks chose a different path: keep it all. His reasoning, a comedy that is bland and safe, is nothing more than a pile of commercial garbage. And so, out of countless restrictions and attempts at censorship, he created one of the sharpest satirical masterpieces in cinematic history. 12. Cleveland Little received hundreds of hate letters during filming.
You know. Morons.
What the hell is that?
Every time I watch Blazing Saddles, I find myself drawn to Cleveland Little's smile. Surrounded by rough, hard-edged cowboys, Sheriff Bart always carries himself with confidence and an almost unbelievable sense of positive energy. But behind the camera was a much sadder story. As one of the first black actors to lead a major comedy blockbuster, Cleveland received countless anonymous letters filled with hatred and abuse. What is truly admirable is that he never brought any of that negativity onto the set. Day after day, Cleveland showed up with astonishing optimism, delivering his lines and trading jokes with Gene Wilder with remarkable ease and chemistry.
Look what I got here.
Hey, where are the white women at?
Do you remember the scene where Sheriff Bart looks at the Waco kid and casually says, "Then I guess we'll play chess together?" That moment makes me laugh every single time. But behind the scenes, the truth was deeply ironic. Blazing Saddles was created to satirize racism, yet its own star was forced to endure that same prejudice in real life. 11. The director asked Madeline Kahn to lift her skirt so he could inspect her legs.
Ah, I feel refreshed. Isn't it bright in here? There. Isn't that better?
If you've seen the movie, I'm willing to bet you haven't forgotten Lily, the flirtatious blonde who manipulates men as if they were nothing more than cheap toys. But few people know that during her audition, Madeline Kahn found herself in an extremely bizarre situation. Mel Brooks suddenly asked her to lift her skirt. As the room filled with awkwardness and suspicion, the director quickly explained, "I have a happy marriage and this is purely professional. I just want to see whether your legs are right for a parody of Marlene Dietrich." Madeline Kahn looked him straight in the eye, lifted her skirt, and delivered a short reply, "Don't touch." That quick wit did not offend Brooks in the slightest. On the contrary, it helped her land the role of Lily von Stupp, a legendary satirical icon, who would later deliver the unforgettable line, "He's like a wet cabbage in my hands." 10. The explosion that almost became a tragedy.
Has anybody got a dime? I don't know, James. Somebody's got to go back and get a shitload of dimes.
Do you remember this scene? A thunderous explosion, the fake toll booth blasted into the sky, and the audience laughing so hard they could barely breathe. But behind the scenes, the atmosphere was far more tense. According to the original plan, Mel Brooks intended to detonate the explosives only after the entire cast had safely evacuated the area. However, a technical malfunction caused the charge to go off earlier than expected. Debris and chunks of brick flew everywhere just seconds after the cast had barely managed to escape the danger zone. The entire set fell silent. Fortunately, no one was injured. But the madness did not stop there. Mel Brooks decided to keep the footage of that near disaster in the final cut of the film. And his reason, he believed it was living proof that sometimes even death itself can be funny if you're willing to look at it from a positive angle. 9. 3 seconds of flatulence that made film history. For the first 20 minutes of the test screening, almost nobody in the theater laughed. For a comedy that is practically a death sentence, Mel Brooks sat there in silence watching his passion project disappear into a wall of cold indifference. Then came the campfire scene. A group of cowboys sat around eating beans in the middle of the night. Suddenly, a loud fart broke the silence. Then came a second one, a third. Within seconds, the lifeless atmosphere shattered. The entire audience burst into laughter, slapping their knees and doubling over as if they had finally understood exactly what this movie was trying to be. Sometimes film history is not written by a great speech. It is written by a perfectly timed laugh. 8. The horse gets punched, and yes, it was 100% real.
Hey, you can't park that animal over there. It's illegal.
Let's take a moment to remember this classic scene. A cowboy walks up, throws a punch, and a horse, a massive animal weighing hundreds of pounds, collapses as if it had just been struck by lightning. It sounds like something straight out of a Tom and Jerry cartoon, but there was absolutely no CGI involved. To pull off this unbelievable punch, director Mel Brooks relied on a clever visual trick, a perfectly chosen camera angle, a stunt performer with impeccable timing, and most importantly, a professionally trained horse. And when the punch was thrown, boom! The horse dropped to the ground on the very first take. Of course, if this scene were filmed today, the production would probably face a barrage of questions from animal welfare organizations. But back then, Mel Brooks was focused on only one thing. Let's see if we're really willing to go all the way. The answer was yes, and when that poor horse hit the dirt, we all learned something important. This movie had no limits, not even the limits reserved for horses. 7. The most famous character in the film was a drunk.
Hey!
Now let's move on to another fascinating contradiction. When Gene Wilder agreed to come to Mel Brooks' rescue at the last minute, he had only one condition: I'll play this role as seriously as possible. And so, a wonderfully backwards joke was born. While everyone else was acting outrageously, Wilder chose to portray a washed-up drunk gunslinger mumbling his lines in the most tired and world-weary voice imaginable.
Oh, dearie dear. Well, okay.
That contrast created a style of comedy unlike anything else. When Sheriff Bart becomes discouraged by the town's prejudice, Jim responds with just 2 words: morons. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what true rule-breaking comedy looks like. 6. The secret behind the villain, Hedley Lamar.
Quicksand, splendid.
And so the railroad has got to go through Rock Creek.
Rock Ridge, splendid.
Hedley Lamar is not just a villain. He is Mel Brooks' satirical jab at a loudmouthed Hollywood executive of the era, and Harvey Korman turned that character into a masterpiece. From his arrogant expressions and pompous mannerisms to his endless speeches, Hedley carries himself as though he is the greatest genius in town. Unfortunately for him, people constantly mistake his name for Hedy Lamar. Every single time it happens, Hedley explodes, "No, it's Hedley Lamar." But the funniest part is that the joke did not stay confined to the movie, because one day actress Hedy Lamar actually sued Mel Brooks over the name Hedley Lamar, arguing that it was too similar to her own. And do you know how Brooks reacted? He did not regret it at all. In fact, he was proud of it. 5. Slim Pickens thought he was making a serious movie.
Oh, shit! Quicksand!
Slim Pickens was anything but a typical Hollywood actor. He was the real deal, real cowboy boots, real cigarettes, and a man who had ridden wild bulls long before he ever stepped onto a movie set. So when he joined Blazing Saddles, he approached the role exactly as his instincts told him to. Serious, focused, ready for action. The problem: nobody told him it was a comedy, and Mel Brooks deliberately kept it that way. So what happened? Pickens delivered a performance that exceeded every expectation. He reacted to crude jokes and endless fart gags as though they were declarations of war. While the rest of the cast struggled to keep a straight face, he stood there completely committed, fully believing in a world that seemed visible only to him, and it was magnificent. What we ended up witnessing was one of the most memorable performances in the history of comedy. 4. The funny dance number that producers tried to kill.
Throw out your hands, stick out your tush, hands on your hips, give 'em a push.
I bet you'll never forget the outrageous ending of this masterpiece. The cast literally smashes through the fourth wall. They burst out of the movie, wreak havoc across Hollywood sound stages, and then suddenly charge straight into a tap dancing extravaganza. The climax comes with the appearance of Dom DeLuise as an absurdly flamboyant film director. What few people know, however, is that the producers absolutely hated this ending at first. They thought it was too bizarre, too expensive, and completely disconnected from the story. Ignoring all the complaints, Mel Brooks chose to stay silent and quietly roll the cameras. And somehow, through sheer magic, that rebellious disregard for every rule imaginable became the perfect ending. 3. The director who became his own actor.
Has die gesehen in deiner Leben? They darker than us. Woof!
What is the ultimate level of directing? Writing the screenplay yourself, directing the movie yourself, and then playing 3 different characters in the same film. That was exactly how Mel Brooks entertained himself during the production of Blazing Saddles. He would arrive on set and seemingly make things up as he went along, paying little attention to what was actually written in the script. Whether he was playing a clueless governor or a Native American chief, every role became another weapon with which to poke fun at the world around him. While Hollywood traditionally worshipped method acting and total immersion, Mel Brooks took the opposite approach. Throw everything into chaos and the audience will do the laughing for you. And history proved him right. We didn't just laugh. We laughed until tears rolled down our faces at a brand of satire that only Mel Brooks could have imagined. 2. Behind the scenes, nothing but laughter.
Blazing Saddles, for me, was a film that truly broke ground. It also broke wind, and maybe that's why it broke ground.
Can you believe it? The greatest enemy of this masterpiece on set was laughter. Behind the scenes, numerous sequences had to be reshot because the cast and crew simply could not stop laughing. Just look at the campfire scene. Some camera operators were reportedly shaking so hard with laughter that the footage itself became unsteady. But the sound department's greatest nightmare was Mel Brooks himself. Whenever he appeared, crew members laughed so hard they dropped their microphones. Even worse, an assistant director reportedly had to remove himself from the set because his laughter kept leaking into the recordings and ruining take after take. Things became so chaotic that Mel Brooks eventually shouted, "We're supposed to be working here." And yet that same energy found its way into every frame of the movie. That is why decades later, audiences can still feel the joy that the entire cast and crew poured into this remarkable film. 1. Why did they leave the movie? Because the movie was over, of course.
Where are you headed, cowboy?
Nowhere special.
Nowhere special. I always wanted to go there.
When the lights came up after a private screening for Hollywood executives, the entire room fell silent. Then suddenly, one studio executive asked, "Why did they leave the movie?" Mel Brooks replied in the most matter-of-fact tone imaginable, "Because the movie was over, of course." But you know what? That was more than just a funny answer. The ending of Blazing Saddles was genuinely shocking for audiences at the time. The characters casually ride their horses through another movie set, then calmly climb into a limousine and disappear. It was a bold artistic statement that shattered every convention of the era, from genre and storytelling to the very boundary between the film itself and the world outside the screen. Unfortunately, not every wealthy Hollywood executive was able to understand that. But what about the audience? We cheered, we went wild. And if you're still wondering why the characters walked out of the movie, then perhaps you never deserved this masterpiece in the first place. More than half a century has passed, yet those wild, chaotic, and brilliantly inventive images of the American West remain an unshakable monument in film history. Every time I revisit the movie, I feel both nostalgic and a little saddened for an era when filmmakers dared to think boldly, act boldly, and embrace madness without being confined by endless rules and expectations. Out of the 15 unbelievable facts we've explored today, which one surprised you the most? Which name or behind-the-scenes story left you completely speechless? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next video.